and you don't just get honor and integrity overnight, right? You got to earn that. It's a marathon. You got to, and that's where confidence comes in too. Because if you know you're doing the right thing for the customer, both with honor and integrity, both in your communications and what you're trying to put them in and solve their problems, then that confidence of, if the deal goes south, you did everything you could the right way, for the customer.
Don't wait around for the up bus. Get in the driver's seat and take control of your operations. Are you ready to increase profitability, have better processes, and get proactive with your operations? Welcome to the Up Bus Podcast. Here's your hosts, Jasen Harris and Jason Rice.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jasen Harris with Jason Rice, and thank you for joining us on another episode of the Up Bus Podcast, where we get to talk about anything and everything we want to talk about when it's about being proactive in your dealership, not reactive. That's right. We want you to drive that bus, not sit around and wait for that bus. Jason,
right.
What's up? How you doing?
How you doing? Just waiting around to be proactive.
Waiting around to be proactive.
Yeah.
You had a good weekend? Spent a little time with the
fun.
kids, the dog?
Yep. Do some soccer games and all that fun.
I know, I guess offside charges all the time, right? But we were just talking a little bit about how I finally moved into this house, right? And, I was just thinking about as we move into this house, it's like I spent like 9 months remodeling this place. So you think, everything I could have possibly thought of to be in preparation for this coming. Because, it's not like it was a surprise. Like, I knew it was coming. I knew the day was coming. And still, even with all the preparation and everything, I end up missing, and, it's funny because I think it's going to kind of lead into or segue into kind of our topics today. But this whole podcast is about just having this continuous mind of preparation, but also being prepared for when shit goes sideways. What do you do? It's like this week was a perfect example. I spent almost a year preparing for this and still managed to forget and mess up a couple things. But it's how we pivot, right? And
it's kind of like Christmas. It sneaks up on you every year, right? You're like, oh shit, it's Christmas.
We know it's coming.
Yeah, a whole year ahead of time.
I think about it kind of when I was in the business, because where I was, we had crazy winters, so there was definitely seasonality, right, in our service business and in our sales business. And sometimes I'm almost kind of surprised. It's like, did you forget that white stuff falls from the ground? And
there's from the ground.
Yeah, and cars are 4 feet under that white stuff. Like, all about preparation. Today, guys, and then that preparation, I think, is felt most in the customer experience. When I really kind of think of some of the best customer experiences I've had, I felt like there was just a substantial amount of effort behind that in preparation for me, coming to the restaurant or, going to the hotel or, sitting down with, that real estate agent or whatever it is. Actually, let's start there. Give me an example of one of the best customer experiences you've had recently.
Well, we went to a restaurant after the game, and we've gone there before, and there was over like an hour wait for food, sometimes 30 minutes for a drink.
Right.
We still left a decent tip for the server because we knew it wasn't their fault. So anyways, this was months ago. Then we went back and visited this Saturday, and we're like, is it going to be the same kind of wait and everything? And no, it was a better turnaround. And matter of fact, she came back and said, no, my manager remember you guys last time. We made sure we took care of you guys. And 15 minutes, everything was good. So it made our night. That was fun.
Well, I think it's what it does for you, right? Like, the fact they remembered you. See, I think that's another big thing, right? I mean, we can talk about this and we'll talk about this when we go into process, but I think one of the biggest processes we can build inside of dealership is the one to ensure that people are felt known, right? Because isn't that super impactful? Like, did that feel good when they're like, oh shit, you remembered us?
Well, yeah. See, what happened was, and I don't know if we told my wife this is kind of our form of tithing a bit, but we didn't even get our food or nothing that night, but we tipped the server $50, and so she remembered us from that. And then turn around, we basically doubled the tip this time around just to to be nice again, kind of make their night. So, it goes both ways too on that. You got to be able to open your eyes and appreciate and see it too, as a consumer. But on their end, they made sure we're taken care of this time. And so, we made sure we circled back around. So who knows what kind of treatment I'm sure we'll get
It would happen
next time. Yeah, I told my wife, I'm like, dang it, she's going to expect like those kind of tips all the time. So
well, but you know what, though? I dig that. I mean, I think for everybody out there watching and listening right now, there's something to be said there. You get what you get out of it, right? What's that, karma? I don't know. Like,
exactly.
you what you put out in the world comes back to you. And I think, let's put that kind of into a dealership setting, right? Today we're talking people, process, and technology. I think what we put out there is what can come back to us. That's one thing to learn. And other thing to learn, guys, is if you're a waiter and you're watching or listening to this and you see Jason walk in, grab him, make sure you get that table. Make sure
my wife and I both waited tables. Our kids do it, so we just kind of respect that line of work because it's not easy. And, people are doing that for a reason, and they're trying to, most of them are just getting by and stuff. At least we were when we were waiting tables. And
and it's such a huge impact on kind of that overall experience. And I think that's actually because look, our first topic of today, right, is how staff management and leadership, all right, let's call it attitudes and behaviors, can cascade down and kind of shape that overall customer experience. This is just a good example, right? You're out eating and you end up not even eating the first time. But that individual didn't quit, still try to create that experience. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts, man, on, kind of setting the tone for the customer experience, how our people influence, the dealership and the culture.
Yeah, I mean, at dealership, especially because, the salesperson's the first person that typically a customer is going to see. So, I guess going there and helping them with their instead of trying to sell them something, that goes all in qualifying questions and stuff like that. But you also got to find it in a way that you're not using some kind of script that every dealer, every time a customer walks in the same dealership, same questions. And so if you do it more on a personal level and get to understand, and here, I mean, all it takes is, and this is the hard part to do, is just go buy a car yourself somewhere else, or, obviously your current dealer probably would frown on that, but at least go and act like you're a customer at another dealership, see how you're treated and see what happens. And then be able to then, because again, that's where we wait at tables. So we understood. And that's why given, we do decent job of tipping because we've been in their shoes before. So that's the hard part, is being able to try to get the customer's guard down because they're coming in and what they're expecting, but also trying to do your job and getting a sale. But again, you're not there. You should be approaching it as you're there to help the customer instead of selling them something.
Well, it's that empathy. See, I think what's interesting is you're able to kind of make this kind of immediate connection of mutual respect because you empathize with what their job is, right? And then, but vice versa, the waiter also emphasizes with the customer. So, I think one of the first steps that we can take, is to your point, to your story, is that we need to emphasize with the customer, but I mean, how can we expect them to kind of empathize with us or connect with us, if things are going crazy and it's busy and it's so much, but if we don't empathize with them, knowing that they're gonna have to go through this experience, because this is an experience, we call it the customer journey, but it requires both parties to be a part of it,
Yeah. And I think one of the worst things that can happen at the dealership is getting a customer to come back a couple weeks, couple months down the road going, this vehicle is really not working for me. I'd like to try to trade it in and get something else. And that happens a lot. But the problem is when you go appraise the car and show them, it's going to be 5-10 grand less than what they just bought it from you 2 months ago. And that really makes you look bad on top of it. So if you don't really help figure out what problem that they're trying to solve, and instead of just trying to get a deal and trying to get the deal with the most money on it, that's, again, I would say the hardest thing to do, but it's pretty simple. It's not, just trying to get the understanding where the customer is in their buying side, what the purpose of that vehicle is going to be, and put them in the right car. Because then you don't you don't have to worry about that situation coming up.
Well, that's that kind of natural intent to want to help someone. And look, I understand, guys. Our goals and objective at the day is to move metal, service metal. Like I get it. Okay, that is our objective, and we never lose sight of that. But there's a lot to be said where we can put our objectives, but at the center of the objectives, we can put the customer. And and then there's some amazing dealerships that are out there. I mean, you work with some amazing dealerships that do a great job of putting, the customer kind of at the center of all of their objectives and being that customer centric approach. Because I think when we do that as leaders, then our people see that and they kind of naturally take that on themselves and put the customer first there. You work with some, I know you work with some great operators. I know a couple of them, so you've seen this kind of play out.
Yeah, and it goes to the TO, right? Again, I think we talked about it last time about leadership and lean by example and getting off our seat and talking to the customer. So as a manager, you want to be able to go in and again, qualifying questions, trying to make sure we're getting in the right vehicle and, emphasize to the customer, hey, we're not here to, sell your car. We're here to solve your problems and make sure you get the right vehicle for your needs. And so the sooner the manager gets involved in that sales cycle with the customer, just again, lead by example, makes it a little bit easier next time the salesperson's got to have to handle that situation. Because maybe the manager can't TO the deal right now because they're busy or you're out in the lot and you can't get the customer in the door. To be able to sit down and have these type of conversations with the customer. So it goes back to leadership and again, confidence, and that's one thing I've always learned with the sales. It wasn't so much, what you knew in word tracks. It's just having the confidence that you're doing the right thing, but also have the confidence that you know your product and maybe you don't know what the customer really wants and needs, but to be able to understand and listen to the customer and hear them versus just trying to, again, get enough information to make a deal and put them on the biggest gross car.
And that's connecting with them, and look, I think, and I love the fact you bring up confidence. Like I really do, right? Because I've tried to reverse engineer for many, many years, those that have confidence and those that don't. And there are certain traits. I really enjoy identifying patterns, right? When I meet people or I go into a new business or something like that. And one of the things I've found with some of the most confident people out there is that their confidence comes from them partly because who they are as individuals, but a big part of their confidence comes from their process, meaning something that they have been taught how to do consistently and feel confident in executing it, right? Because like process, you don't just wake up one day and jump on a bike and go 25 miles. There's a process to that, right? But through executing that process, you become more confident. And you can do the 5 miles, and now the 5 miles turns into 10, and the 10 turns to 15. I mean, you do this. I know this personally.
Well, I mean, that's just, it's a marathon, not a race. And one of the things I try to teach my kids is an acronym called, I call it HUHI, HUHI. And what that stands for is head up. So never be pouty and, go in the corner, whatever situation. But honor and integrity are the second things. And you don't just get honor and integrity overnight, right? You got to earn that. It's a marathon. And that's where confidence comes in too. Because if you're doing the right thing for the customer, both with honor and integrity, both in your communications and what you're trying to put them in and solve their problems, then, that confidence of if the deal goes south, you did everything you could the right way, for the customer. So, and just be able to, I would say, brush that off and move on to the next one. So again, it's just, it's something that happens over time. And that's where that confidence comes in, not just knowing your product and knowing your processes, but doing the right thing for the customer in the long run. Again, with honor and integrity. And that goes back to, who's teaching you that, right? And where it came from, the foundation. And again, that's where manager roles come in and leadership does.
Well, and that's, guys, why what we're saying here, we're starting off with people, we're working our way down a process, and then how technology, I think technology is going to overly connect kind of everything, but okay, so give me that acronym one more time, because I like this. I think I need to make a t-shirt out of it.
I know, I wanted to. HUHI.
HUHI. Head up.
Honor and integrity. Because here's the thing, no one can take your honor and integrity, right? They can take your job, they can take your money, they can take your whatever, but as long as you did everything at the highest standards with integrity, they can't take that away from you. That's why I try to teach again, kind of that little military chant, but hoo-hi, I tell my kids, hey, who, or I'll text them HUHI, especially if they're going through a, particular challenge in their life. But just, if anything, keep your head up,
See, that's a beautiful process. And look, I think there's something that actually, I love that actually. If I had my dealership, I think I would create a meeting right now about that, because, well, the cool thing is what I think it does is not only does it give a process, because you kind of follow a set, right? First thing I do, put my head up, right? It's a step, right? And then I take kind of a breath, and then I move forward, and then I revert all of my decisions or my actions back to those two things, honor and integrity, right? And it's stress testing. So it's stress test everything I do that continues to move forward. And those are the type of processes. I think too often in our industry, we think of processes, and what we're thinking is just like, here are the 12 steps to selling a car, right? But I think there's a way to process, honor and integrity. There's a way to process customer experience, and see that's how we process that experience is. But we give, or not give, I guess we empower. That's what it is. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're empowering your kids. We're empowering our staff. All right. With a process that's of always kind of moving forward, but at the core of it, honor integrity for us, our clients, keeping at the core in the center of that. All right. Honor integrity around what we do and how we work our clients.
Yeah. And I think as a manager, if you've taught your team that, then when you're not around, things are going okay, right? And so you don't necessarily have to micromanage and start chipping away at people, and obviously then they get defensive, and then they and so you obviously, to be able to be a leader for that, you've got to also have that quality. But
no, look, I'm glad you brought up micromanagement, right? Because here's the thing with micromanagement, it works. This is the scary part, right? It can fundamentally work. Right? You can micromanage people to the point where you get the results. It sucks because it works, and so there are a lot of people that fall into that category where they continue to micromanage them. But the problem is with micromanagement is that it falls onto one individual being the key of those efforts, right? So those results are those results happen because of the micromanaging efforts behind the one individual. But to your point, if that individual is not there, then you have a full breakdown of it, because people aren't being micromanaged, and you know how it is when when parents are away, the kids will.
Well, I had my team, they kind of push back on some stuff that we were tracking, how long their calls were, how many people attended, and so forth. But then we were correlating that to how the dealers were doing, how the dealers volume was doing, how successful they are at turning fresh inventory, and so we're like trying to match those two things up. If the dealer's not, and we're using technology, right, we're plugging in the numbers of how successful the dealerships, and we're plugging in how long their call was, how many people attended, did they send them takeaway notes. And again, initially when we're doing that, they're getting pushback. But we're going, hold on a second. You got to understand that this isn't micromanaging you. This has happened to be to give us insight on the dealers. If the dealer's doing bad, we need maybe a longer call than 30 minutes. Maybe we need more people than just one person on the call. And if I can spoon feed you back the data that says, hey, here's the 5 accounts that you want to make sure you're on a little bit longer in the calls, and see if you can get a couple other people to attend it. It's just going to benefit you. In the long run, it benefits our dealer, though, because we're being proactive and helping them with the dealership. So, same thing could be said at the store level. The manager can't be there all the time. So there are going to be some metrics and reports and things that you can rely on that seem like they're micromanaging, but they're not. They're there to, again, solidify what the dealer's trying to accomplish, but ultimately, again, getting dealers only going to function if they can make sales and take care of their customers.
That's true. And no, in fact, I thank you for actually kind of bringing that up to kind of clarify that, right? Because I think, when it's a people, process, and technology thing, it becomes a cultural thing, right? It's like you have the right people, you got the right process, and you have the technology that kind of just continues that loop of people and process on a regular basis, and that technology can encompass. I call it kind of like for me, it's like the wrapper on the candy. It's just kind of keeps it all together, but you got all the good stuff, inside. I will have to say, Jason, I spent some times with your analyst. That's
Mhm.
right, analyst. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. I want to know where and how the hell you found some of these people, because I mean, no, seriously though, I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of different companies, work with a lot of different companies, talk to a lot of different dealerships, right? And there are there are certain people that just kind of breathe and live people, process, and technology.
Yeah.
And your analysts do that. I was on a call with two of them this morning, and it was just really cool to see. So, like, for people out there, and I know I'm finding a rabbit hole here, but I want to go down this because, how to find these people, how to find this candy pot of amazing people. I'd love
Yeah.
for you to kind of say, kind of walk us through how you found these amazing people, because they live it, they breathe it. Now, I'm sure you had a big part in building that culture, but how do we attract those type of individuals?
Well, I guess a little bit of, first and foremost, I talked about honor and integrity, right? So the whole time I've done my career over since 97, I always wanted to make sure that I am who I am, and whatever I represent online or do, and so over time that's earned respect for people in the industry, and that and alone. And again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So on top of that is the people that pretty much, yeah, all my analysts. I've never put an ad out that we're hiring for analysts, and yet we have about 10 of them on our team that or been all referrals, and either current clients that left the dealership and wanted to see if there's opportunities here, but most of it was the referrals of my own team. Hey, this person would be great, because again, my team knows what to do and expect, right? I always say, if I got a micromanager, I got the wrong people, but they know what our approach is, right? So they're not going to refer somebody that doesn't understand that or understand our culture, right? So, or that could benefit from it. There's a couple people on our team that's been, hey, he's a great car guy. He's working hard. His family has dealerships, but he wants to be home more. He wants to be he's got kids, and those retail hours are beating him up. He'd be a perfect match for you guys, because that's what you guys do. So I would say get into your team that understands your goals and your culture and your mission statement and your whatever's, to make sure that nobody on your team is going to refer somebody that won't be a good match. And so
100%.
that's been our easiest, or I guess, way to success, I would say, based on what you're talking about.
Well, what I think is so cool is, Jason, I don't know if you even know this. I mean, it's how consistent they all beat the same drum.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I find if I mean, like 10 people, there's only going to be a certain percentage of them that kind of are able to continue to beat at that same pace. Some people a little off, some people a little faster, maybe some people are a little quicker and stuff like that. But you guys have done such an amazing job, I think, of kind of building this culture that allows them to kind of beat the drum, but they're beating the drum in a way that's consistent, right? Every time I've ever been on a call with them, they're talking to a dealership, and they're going over the people and the process and what the technology is identified, which we're going to get into the technology, because again, I think, you might have amazing people, and you might have some really great documented processes at your dealership. But if you don't have that shiny silvery coating, wrapper of that, I call the technology, holding it all together, then, it just ultimately ends up melting away. But let's do that. Let's get into the technology side, because I've said enough already. Sometimes I'll go on the rants. All right, technology.
Yes.
Holding that all together. How do you see that playing out inside of a dealership? Maybe some good examples, some bad examples.
Ooh, well, I mean, it all depends on what you're going to utilize the technology for, right? Let's say stocking, for example. A couple ways we look at technology or helping dealers with stocking would be kind of matching the customer's profile. I think we talked about it earlier. A high percentage of my customers or leads are sitting at a certain price bucket. I mean, example, I'm looking at a dealership right now that they have, probably about 500 leads, but over half of them are on cars under 25 grand, And a good chunk of those are on compact and intermediate SUVs and intermediate cars. So if I'm out there buying large pickup trucks at $40,000, am I really meeting my customers' needs, or at least the profiles that I get in my lead database? So, using technologies to make sure that goes back to the basics. What am I trying to accomplish? Trying to help customers. Okay, what are my customers' wants and needs? Well, they need 25 grand or less compact intermediate cars, or compact intermediate SUVs, and try to fit that profile. Because that's the other thing, is if you can put those cars into your inventory, then you can turn around and contact those customers at the database that you have. There's other things. Again, the technology is going to be able to help you, track all the breakdown, how many leads, how many contacts, how many contacts during appointments, how many showed, how many sold, how many delivered, and so forth. And finding those holes. And here's the thing: they say data doesn't lie, right? And so the hard part is that's where you got to use technology to get that data. And we used to break it up. Like when I did internet deals, I think there was a front and back end of the internet.
Yes.
The front end was the data, meaning how many leads, how many appointments, and that would show me how many activities per lead that we're doing. And so if I increase my activity, as increase my appointments. The back end, though, was the people part of it, but there's a whole process there too. The back end of the internet deal was the shows and what happens when they showed up, and that's what I meant by front and back. The front end could be great, call, email, and you're talking to the customer. You get them excited about the vehicle, excited about coming in and talk to you. You give them all the information, you send them videos, you're doing all the right things. But then once they show up,
There's a breakdown.
there's a breakdown. I had that on a personal experience. Person was great here. I thought I got the deal with her when I got in. Oh no, ask for the manager, Bob, whoever. I show up at the dealership at my appointment time. I asked for Bob. He comes out from the tower acting like I distressed him. And who are you again? I'm Jason. What are you here on? I'm on that Jeep. Which one? Oh, that orange one. That's still sitting out there in the grass by the highway. Oh, okay. Well, come here, Johnny. Come here. This is Jason. He wants that Jeep. Can you go get the keys and pull it up? And so I'm sitting here for 10 or 15 minutes. And then they try to steal my trade. And I had to pull out the whole, hey, I'm in the business card, after, an hour of test drives and them trying to steal my trade. And I go, hold on, guys. So anyways, there, that back end just fell apart. Okay. So technology can only tell me I'm doing a great job on the front end.
Of course.
Right. But I could kind of see it on the back end too, meaning, hey, if I got 100 leads and I got half of them to give me appointments, well, at least half of those should show up. Okay. Well, they did. And then at least I should at least close half of those. But if I'm only closing a third of them, well, something's falling apart. What's falling apart when they get here? So technology can't solve the problem of having bad management, not being prepared for appointments, but it can point it out, right?
Well, it keeps that engine going. For example, you had great people. You spoke to someone really pleasant. They made you feel comfortable enough. You decided to come into the dealership. There were some great people there, right? And then, boom, you hit a process breakdown. The fact that, man, you didn't even know who the hell you were, what you were even there for. I mean, just like, and that's hard, right? Because, I've said on the internet side as well, I ran the BDC, and it's like, oh my God, we spent so much time just to convince this person how amazing we are, and they should come to us because there's 72 other orange Wranglers out there, but we're the ones that are the best for it. And then, boom, within the first 45 seconds, full process breakdown. Who are you? What are you here for? I mean, like lay the red carpet out, but I've seen this very, very similar. I've also seen this the same when it comes to like appraising a vehicle. I talk to a BDC rep, and the BDC rep makes me feel comfortable and great. This is going to be the process. And then I show up and it's like, did I come to the wrong dealership?
That's what I felt like.
But I think, going back to what we're talking about here is, at the core of what the Upbus podcast is, it's about being proactive. And, if we're not using the technology to help us be proactive and identifying people problems or process problems, You know,
And I did this before too. There's another good example. I was leasing and I might have talked about this one before, but I was leasing my daughter a Honda, and because you get a pretty decent payment on that. And we went in and spent a couple hours at the dealership knowing we didn't know what we wanted. So we're looking at Honda HRVs and CRVs and then which package and so forth. And we worked out, which one was right or wrong for us. We did the credit app and we got the payments right and what we need to put down, but we just couldn't take delivery at that point in time. And so we were going to come back another day. And so just to get that all, just pick the car up essentially. And, here's a couple things they dropped. Again, they waited for us to show up, obviously. And here was the thing. I think it was like 5:00. And I'm like, well, we should be there less than an hour. We're already done everything. It's a 3-year, 12,000 mile lease. So we don't need a warranty and all that kind of stuff. Should just be an in and out, no trade in, just in and out. And so it was like 5:00, but we also had our daughter who was probably only like 3 or 4 at the time. And dinner time's typically 6:30. And so we're like, it'll be fine. It'll be fun. Let's go into the dealership and we'll be done right around dinner time. We can all go to dinner and, in the new car and have her drive a new car to dinner and celebrate. Right. Well, we get there and again, they barely were ready for us. And then 2, they try to come out and sit down with us with a template technology. Right. And they're trying to upsell us on the wheel and, windshield protection things and stuff, paint and fab. And I'm like, I told my wife, maybe we should get it. And my wife's like, no, we don't need to. It's another 10 or 15 bucks. It wasn't that much more a month because again, I was worried about my daughter being in her, teens or 20, curbing a car going through the drive-through. She's got a 30-minute drive to her college, which is just country highway. So she could hit a deer, or chip her windshield or something. Right. And so, and door dings down at college, on campus. But my wife's like, no. And they came back down and they're like $5 or $8. And by then my wife's just frustrated. She's like, no, it's fine. We don't need it. And then their whole computer system broke down, their little tablet. They just couldn't do it. And this is a young kid who's probably new to finance, probably never done paper financing, print. So it took us over 2 to 3 hours. We're getting frustrated. My kid was getting tired. They're getting crabby. They're like, can we just leave? We're just hungry. Can we leave and you come back? And the guy's like, well, I'm almost done. He left us hanging. And it was just a horrible experience. It took over 3 hours. We didn't even go to dinner. We couldn't enjoy the thing. But my point being was, one, if they would have called me, again, being proactive. Hey, Jason, we're getting ready for you coming in. We have a couple questions. Would you be interested in this, this, and this? We want to make sure your paperwork's all ready to go when you get here. And at that point in time, because I would have done the curb, the wheel and the windshield thing. At that point in time, if they would have said, hey, it's only $8 more, you want to throw it in, I'd be probably like, yeah, go ahead and do it. And then we would have went in there and we would have signed probably within 15 minutes, have been done and out of there. It would have been one of the best experiences we've had.
You would have gone, you had to do dinner, everyone would have been happy, and you would have told 10 other people how great and frictionless.
All they had to do was call me and say, hey, we're getting your paperwork ready. I want everything tied up before you get here. And if they would have got another upsell on the paint fab, all that warranty stuff, that turned into just a mess. And because my wife got involved, not that I couldn't said, fine, I'm going to do it either way and sign the extra $5 or $8 they're going to charge me on it. It was just the frustration of sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. And by that time, it's like, no, we don't need nothing. Just give us the freaking paperwork so we can go. We're starving, Anyways.
Look, no, but that's a perfect example of utilizing technology with a bad process.
Yeah.
Right? Like a delivery is a delivery. A delivery should be
3-year, 12 lease. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
no trade.
Not only that, but delivery is a celebration.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, look, to me, I pull out the stops, man. Balloons, streamers, poppers, music, whatever I can do, right? Because this is the last thing I could do to send you off. And this is what you're going to tell. It's the very point. See, here's the thing.
Well, hold on. This is my daughter's first new car she got to buy, and it was a horrible experience.
That's the experience she's going to remember forever, right? I mean, look, I understand, like things happen and things break down at a dealership, and I look, there are times that I could have fumbled the ball maybe a couple times through the overall purchase experience, but I mean, you're 5 yards from the touchdown. You cannot fumble the bloody ball. It's got to be just a full on. It's in, it's done, it's good. Like and celebrate the living crap out of it. But there you go. That was a good use of technology, but in a bad process. And it wasn't the people. It was that young person knew, following a process, all right, that didn't have the customer at the center of it. When picking up the vehicle shouldn't be nothing but just a celebratory dance at the end goal. And and it should be fun. It's because I've had bad experiences. There are things I've fumbled, but I can make that up in that delivery. I 100% can, because that's what they're going to remember. That's what they're going to tell.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to tell their 10 friends, even though maybe I fumbled the ball a couple times on the way to it. Anyways.
Well, even to the point where when they want to go over the car and the features, are like, we'll figure it out. We got to go.
Oh, no.
We got to go. It's like, and so I bought dozens of cars, so it wasn't a big deal. I understand. I've been in dealerships. I know how things can happen, but man, for her to have that as her first experience buying a car was just horrible.
Well, you know what though? And I think everybody out there watching, listening can relate in some way like this. Recently at a restaurant, everything was amazing until I asked for the check. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Like, we waited 30 minutes for the check to come. It was like, what was the breakdown? Everything was amazing. But no, but look, guys, I know
there's technology that you could scan a QR code at your table and pay for it and walk out. But
I love that stuff, man. I tell you,
too.
That when that came out, I was like, I don't have to wait. Wait, the kids are done. I can go, because you know how it is with young kids. They're done. They're done. Right. Like, you need to get out of that.
I'll go wait in the car. My teenager would say that. I'm gonna go wait in the car.
I'm gonna go in the car. But look, guys. I know we're joking. We're having a little bit of fun here. But look, at the core of this, that's what this topic was, right? Enhancing the customer experience through people, process, and technology. And you have to look at all three. And you need a stress test. Jason, I love your acronym. Again, for everybody out there watching, HUHI. All right. Head up.
Honor, integrity.
Love it, man. Absolutely awesome. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today, Jason. This has been a lot of fun. For everybody out there watching and listening, if you'd like to see more great and amazing UpBus content, you got to check out theupbus.com. All right. Great. They're always putting up new tidbits, new content. You got to check it out. We're keeping that updated on a regular basis. And always new and exciting stuff to come. This is episode number 6. We thank you for participating, but hey, this is far from the last episode. There's a lot more great content to come and some very cool surprises to come along with it. Jason, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. This has been fun.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for tuning in to the UpBus podcast with your hosts, Jason Harris and Jason Rice. To stay up to date with all our content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.